Here's a question for you. Have you ever gotten somewhere and then realized, how did I even get here? Not because you weren't paying attention to the road, and actually not even that you ended up somewhere that you weren't supposed to be, but you ended up where you were supposed to go, and you have no idea how you even got there because you don't even remember the ride. Because your mind was literally everywhere else, everywhere but inside that car. Gosh, I used to do this every day. When I worked in the salon, I had like a 45-minute commute, drive home every night, 45 minutes. And I'd pull into my driveway like, shit, I'm here already. How? I just left work. How do you just lose 45 minutes like that? I couldn't have told you like one thing that I passed on that drive. Not one. It's like my whole body drove home, but my mind never left the salon. I was still replaying the conversations, still thinking about the client, still wondering if I forgot something, probably already planning tomorrow. So then, as if 45-minute commute isn't enough, I'd now have to sit in my driveway or my garage for another 5 to 10 minutes because now I have to become mom. I had to mentally shift gears before I walked into that door. Like, okay, what homework did everybody have today? Who had practice tonight? What was my husband's day going to be? What questions do I have to follow up with the kids tonight? I wanted to be present when I walked in that door at home. But first, I had to figure out how to freaking get there mentally. And, like, there's always that moment where the kids either, like, peeking through the blinds or cracking open that garage door, like, are you coming in, mom? And I'd just be sitting there like, give me a minute. I'm trying to become another person before I walk in the house. Isn't that wild? How can we spend so much of our lives physically present while mentally we're somewhere else entirely? That can't be what we're here for, right? It just can't. Okay, so a couple weeks ago, some friends were showing me this TikTok. It was talking about how researchers have been studying something called bird noticing. Not bird watching, bird noticing. And I don't know why that one word just completely stopped me. Because those aren't the same thing. Bird watching, that's a hobby, right? That's a hobby that our grandparents are into. Bird noticing, that sounds like a practice. Like it's about your attention, it's about your presence. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. And so if you know me, naturally, now I've got to try it, right? I literally announced, "Hey, I'm going on my notice walk." Like, as if I had invented something, right? Oh. That confidence lasted maybe 90 seconds. Seriously, 90 seconds. And then my brain was already off planning next Tuesday, replaying last Thursday, having conversations that hadn't even happened yet, doing all the things that my brain apparently loves to do. Then I caught myself. I actually stopped walking, actually. I said out loud, shit, I forgot about the birds. I wasn't noticing them. I wasn't hearing them. I wasn't looking for them. So I reset. Like, okay, pay attention. Starting over. And maybe another couple minutes went by. I forgot again. By the time I was almost home, I realized, oh, you've got to be kidding me. I haven't noticed the birds for almost this entire walk. I was like, I guess I suck at bird noticing. Stamp that one with a big fat fail. Let's think about this for a second. What if that's actually the practice? Not noticing perfectly, but just returning to the practice. Do it again and again. Maybe it was actually good that in those moments I was realizing that my brain had wandered off, and so I caught myself and I was able to bring it back into the practice. But here's where it gets really weird. I spend hours every day in silence. Most days it's just me at home. No TV, no music, nobody talking. It's just quiet. Except I don't even actually ever hear the silence. How's that even possible, right? So many people, or even myself, like back when I wasn't an empty nester, it was like, I just want silence. And now here I am in silence, and I don't even notice that it's silent. Hours. And somehow I don't even hear it because inside my head, it's never quiet, like ever. It's it's that whole like I have 30 tabs open. One's replaying something I said 3 years ago, one's planning dinner, one's solving a problem that doesn't even exist, one's imagining worst case scenario, and somewhere in there I have some song in my head that I don't even know how that song got in my head. Seriously, where does that even come from? And my husband, he's the complete opposite. He actually hears silence. He'll ask me, like, in the evening or on a weekend, "Do you mind if I turn the TV on?" Or, "Is it okay if I play some music?" Or, "I don't know how you can just be in silence all day, every day." But of course, I'm always like, "Yeah, turn on whatever." Because I don't hear what he's hearing. I hear mental traffic. Maybe that's why the bird study grabbed me so much. Not because of the birds, but because of that word, notice. I just said, I don't even notice the silence. I don't even hear it. What if the study, what if it was never about birds necessarily? What if the birds are simply giving our minds something gentle enough to interrupt that momentum, that chatter, that chaos that we've been carrying all day? Oh, okay. That feels true. Because maybe noticing isn't about becoming fascinated with birds. Maybe noticing is what interrupts just the momentum of our own minds. And if we interrupt that momentum, even for a moment, maybe that's when we finally become available to our own lives. You know, all this bird noticing stuff has me thinking, maybe this wasn't actually my first notice walk. I don't think it was. I've talked about how much hiking has always meant to me. I've always said it's been therapeutic. It's where I go to think, it's where I go to breathe. It's where I feel like trees talk to me. I know how that sounds, but wait. What if I've been practicing this my whole life? I've just never had a name for it. Okay, so I just remember something. When I was little, I used to climb this giant pine tree in our yard. Actually, there were 5 big ones. There was one that I climbed the most, but there were other ones that I climbed too. But besides the point, whenever life got loud, I'd kind of do that like Irish goodbye in the house, and I'd just quietly disappear out the back door. No announcement, no drama, just gone. And gosh, I would climb up those branches to the top of these mighty pine trees and just find that spot that would fit me just right, and I just sit there. Honestly, for hours sometimes. I never questioned why I did that. I just always thought I was a kid who liked climbing trees. But I don't think that's it. I was the oldest of 4 kids. If you're the oldest, you might understand this. Everybody always needs something. Life is loud. Life is busy. Mom and dad are doing the best they can. Your younger siblings are, well, they're being younger siblings. And somewhere along the way, without anybody ever like saying it out loud, you kind of become the responsible one. You're supposed to know better. You're supposed to help. You're supposed to set the example. You're like the adult of the kids, even if you're 6. And I don't say that with resentment. It's just what happens. But you know what gets interesting is when life would get overwhelming or the house would get overwhelming or I'm overstimulated. I didn't just like go up and crawl into dad's lap like maybe my siblings would have. Because as the oldest, that would have felt a little too, I don't know, childish. That was for the younger kids. But instead, I'd go outside and I'd climb one of those pine trees. Wait, I just realized something. I've told that story I don't know how many times, but I've never connected the dots that I wasn't just climbing the tree. I was climbing into like a safe space, into safety. It's like it was my dad's lap. Oh my gosh. Wow. Gosh, I didn't think I'd be crying over what was supposed to be a bird talk today. Wow. I lost my dad about 4 years ago, and if you knew him, you'd understand this immediately. He was the tree in our family. He's like steady, he's strong, he's always there. You could lean on him. Everybody, everybody did. And somehow, before I could even explain it, those pine trees became that place for me. They held me. Honestly, I never really realized that until now. But what's even crazier, check this out. My younger sister told me just a few years ago, before she dipped, um, she used to climb those same trees. I had no idea. I mean, there's 9 years between us. So, like, our times in our lives, our chapters of our childhood were very different. So, when she was 9, I was moved out of the house. And I had no idea. The same trees. She found the same places without either of us ever knowing or talking about it until just a couple years ago. Maybe it wasn't the tree itself, but maybe it's what the tree offered us. Space. Nobody expected anything from me up there. Nobody needed me. Nobody was asking me to fix anything. I could just be. Wow. Maybe that's why hiking became so important later in life. Because, like, just thinking of my salon life, when I had my days off, I didn't need entertainment. I didn't need a shopping trip. I didn't need another project. I needed the trail. And I always called hiking a hobby. But now that I'm saying all of this out loud, I don't think it was a hobby. I think it was legit recovery. Again, in a season in my life that felt very chaotic and loud and overstimulating as I'm balancing work life, personal life, kids, marriage, everything. No, that wasn't a hobby. Wow. There's a really big difference. Because in the salon, especially if you've ever worked in any service industry, you know what it's like. You're listening all day, holding space all day, absorbing people's stories and their energy, trying to make everyone else feel better, trying to solve problems, trying to help, trying to be on. By the end of the week, I wasn't looking for adventure. I was just trying to find myself again, trying to come home to self and connection. Here's what always fascinated me though is it's not like my mental chatter stopped the second I would get to a trailhead. Not even close. Maybe after that first mile. It just depended how much was going on in that season. My brain was still at work, still replaying conversations, still making lists, still wondering if I forgot to call somebody, still thinking about the kids, their schedules, horse competitions, practices, games, appointments, dinner, laundry, tomorrow, everything, everything. And then somewhere along the trail, something would start happening. It's like one tab closed at a time, and then another, and then another. And before I realized it, I could breathe deeper, my nervous system felt more relaxed, my shoulders were dropped, my body had just softened. And then typically I would hear something or feel something, like not a voice, not literally, just, I don't know, clarity. Like, oh yeah, I need to call the doctor back. Or, oh, it's time to give the dog his heartworm medicine. Like, oh, it just clicked. That's what that conversation was really about. So, as I would always say, the trees would talk to me, or nature talks to me. It's not that the message would magically show up. I think it's that, now thinking back on it, I think it's that I finally showed up. Like I was, under a pile of tasks and conversations and just that mental chatter. And if I could get enough of that away, then I could come back to the surface. Me, who I am. Huh. Yeah, because I literally have always said, yeah, nature speaks to me or the trees speak to me. But yeah, I guess it's when I finally become quiet enough, I can actually hear me. uh, like, so I was telling my husband about all of this yesterday and like the birds and trees, my hiking, how I've always felt like the woods speak to me. And he just kind of looked at me like, he had that like sweet, curious look that only somebody who loves you can give. He said, I don't really experience that. I mean, he wasn't making fun of me, and he wasn't being dismissive or skeptical necessarily. And he wasn't trying to convince me that I was wrong or kooky. He was just telling me his truth. He doesn't walk through the woods feeling like the trees are talking to him. And honestly, that kind of surprised me that that was his response because he's somebody who notices everything. Seriously, we could be at a social gathering in the middle of a conversation and he'll say, "Did you see that bald eagle?" Or "Isn't that weird that that one branch is the only thing moving in that whole tree?" He notices everything. Details that I would never catch. Like I said, I've got, 30 tabs open in my mind. My dad was exactly like that too. Gosh, he noticed everything. Ugh. But neither my dad or my husband would necessarily say the trees are speaking to them. So that really got me thinking, how can someone notice so much but not feel like there's messages or not feel what I feel? Troy and I were sitting in a smoothie shop yesterday when we were talking about that. And then we started walking home, and I couldn't stop thinking about that. It just kept turning over in my mind. Then all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I think I've been saying the wrong thing. Well, okay, not wrong, just, I don't know, not quite right. Maybe the point was never that the trees were talking. Maybe the point was that I was finally quiet enough to hear myself. So I came back to that. And that changes everything. Because if that's true, then the trees weren't the ones giving me the wisdom. They weren't handing me the answers. They weren't magically fixing my life. They were simply holding space. The exact same way they'd been doing since I was a little girl, climbing into those branches to sit on one of its laps. The trees never changed. They've always been there. They're there while I'm at work. They're there while I'm running kids to practices, games, or horse events. They're not the ones changing. And the trail never changed. The birds never changed. I did. I became available. Wow. Wow. This might actually be one of the biggest realizations I've had in a long time. Because all these years, I thought nature was giving me something. They're like there was this magic language happening in there. But maybe nature was just simply creating enough quiet for me to receive what had been inside me all along. Oh, that's why the bird study makes so much sense. It's not trying to make us into bird experts. And I don't even think it's really about the birds. It's just about the noticing. Because noticing interrupts the momentum and the loop and the chatter and the all the things going on in our mind with all 30 tabs. The noticing interrupts that momentum of our minds. That's it. That's the whole thing. And once that momentum slows down, even just for a little bit, we start remembering the things we forgot we knew. Oh gosh, which makes me think of that quote. If you heard that, this is, we need reminded more often than we need taught. That's this. It quiets our mind enough that we can start remembering what we forgot we knew. I don't think we're missing anything in ourselves. I think we've just gotten so noisy, we can't hear ourselves anymore. We can't hear that inner voice, that inner wisdom, that inner guidance. All right, so now I'm wondering, what if we all have this version of what trees are to me? But, I don't expect yours to also be trees, because clearly I learned yesterday that that's not normal. But what if you have your own version of this? Maybe yours is horses, like my daughter. Like, she disappears into herself when she's around horses. And I don't mean she zones out. I mean she becomes completely herself, and the rest of the world just disappears. And our one boy, gosh, kicking around a soccer ball, being on grass when nobody else is there, that's his thing. And our oldest, actually, his might be on a ball field somewhere too. But what's yours? Gosh, maybe it's fishing. Maybe it's being in a DIY project. Maybe it's remembering your grandma's kitchen. Maybe it's being in your own kitchen. But maybe that's not it for you either. Maybe it's being around water. Maybe it's music, your garden, or church. Maybe it's simply that first cup of coffee before anyone wakes up. Maybe that's what feels like home, that return to home for you. See, and I don't think that it's the actual place that matters as much as I think it's the relationship with it that does. And speaking of home, I'm thinking of Wizard of Oz now. I have loved that movie my entire life. Probably an unhealthy amount, but seriously, I think every year of my life, something relates to it and I refer back to it, and then I learn something new all over again with that movie. And I think I've just always related with Dorothy. I think many of us do. Always just trying to figure out where we belong, always believing that somewhere out there over the rainbow. No, but somewhere there's a point in our life that's going to reach that Emerald City, some destination, some achievement, some answer, some person, some wizard, right? Who is finally going to tell me who I was and how I'm going to get to my home, my destination, my dream place. Isn't that what so many of us are doing? Like, if I just get the promotion, if I just lose the weight, if I just get married, if I just heal, if I just get there, then I'll finally be at peace. I'll finally feel like I landed. I finally feel like I made it. I'll finally feel at home, content. But actually, Dorothy, going to Emerald City, going to meet the wizard, she didn't actually find home. She remembered it, didn't she? Oh my gosh. The whole journey, that whole yellow brick road, it seemed like it just went on, right? Like it was long, it was far away. But what she ended up actually finding out is that it wasn't leading her away and so far away. It was actually leading her back to self, to home, returning her, helping her realize that she had the power all along. She could return home all along because it was always there. Wow, that's it. When I was little, home, or my home, my centering, my return to self was getting in that pine tree. As an adult, it became getting on trails, hiking different mountains, exploring, and just being in the woods. And in recent years, we've spent a lot of time in Florida, so It became the shores, being around that water. And it's not because trees have this magic humanness or the ocean comes to life and the waves start talking to me, but it's because that's where I remember how to come back to self. That's where the tabs start closing. That's where my shoulders drop. That's where I can finally hear the silence. That's where I remember I'm already here. I've got the power the whole time. And my husband, he finds that somewhere else. But this isn't about, okay, everybody should do it my way. It's not about becoming me and in my practices. It's about becoming you. You. Finding the people who help bring you home. Finding the places that help bring you back to home and back to self. That big return. It's finding the practices that bring you back. That interrupt the momentum of your own mind long enough for you to come home. They didn't call this bird watching. They call this bird noticing. Because while birds, I feel, are magical too. And I do feel that they have messages too. I don't think in this study the birds were ever the point. I think returning was the point. It was the practice. It was interrupting that momentum of that chatter and chaos and schedules and responsibilities and tasks and conversations. It's about returning, interrupting that momentum again and again and again. So, I have a question for you. Where have you always felt most like yourself? Not where somebody told you should find yourself. Not where you think you should feel peace. Where have you already experienced that peace, that return, that home feeling? What's been quietly holding you your whole life that maybe you've never stopped long enough to notice? Kind of sounds like the goal was never to become someone new, right? Maybe we weren't supposed to follow the yellow brick road to a land where we become something new. Maybe the goal has always been to remember who you already are beneath the noise. Maybe, generally speaking, maybe noticing isn't about finding something you've been missing. You're not lacking. Noticing is about interrupting your mind long enough to recognize that home has been patiently waiting for you all along. And if you happen to hear a bird while you're finding your way back, well, I'd take note and notice that too. Gosh, this was so good to walk with you today. Thank you for walking with me today. Because after all, we're all just walking each other home.